but you're still very muffled.
Well, that's the world we're living in. Discussion of relaunch 2020, rising to the challenge.
Board, I asked the principals to be on, y'all have asked them to be on the call today. I've asked for a representative from each grade level and each region to kind of give an update as to how orientation in the first week of school went. And then everyone is available for questions if you would like. But we'll start with Mr. Ottaway if you'd like to give us a brief idea of how elementary school has gotten started.
That is great. But inside the boardroom, we cannot hear them.
Mr. Ottaway, if you'd hold on for just a second, we're having problems hearing you, so we'll get that fixed.
I think he's talking away.
It shows, Mr. Ottaway, it's showing that you're muted.
Yes, sir. Very clear through this.
Mr. Ottaway, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up. I can't hear you. Ms. Gallagher.
Karen, however you are talking is clear.
Ms. Gallagher, will you speak so I can see, I can hear you?
I just don't know why we can hear Ms. Tedder and not those.
Ms. Tedder, did you call in on the phone?
No, I did not.
No, okay.
I can.
No, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Ms. Miller, can you speak? We can't hear you. Ms. Tedder, can you hear me now?
So it's coming out of there, and it's not making it over, right?
Let me see if we can hear through the phone.
You're logged into the Stokes YouTube. I don't know why it's impacting everybody else, but that's why you can hear her and you can't hear anybody else.
They're all joined in the Stokes YouTube. That's how the invite was sent.
But if you come look on my screen, you can see Katie literally says Stokes YouTube and everybody else is them. I don't know either. But that's the difference that I see from my
Mr. Ottaway, would you please look at the calendar, Eva, and see if you can call in through the phone number and we can hear you?
Yes. We can
Well,
hear you now.
that's through this.
That's through this. We can hear you now.
All right.
Dr. Rice, however you were speaking was much better.
Okay, I am using my phone right now, but Mr. Ottaway, if you'd like to go ahead and give us your report, and we'll be able to hear you through the speakers.
Do I need to call in, or can you hear me?
You're fine right now, I believe.
Woo! That's good. As I was saying, overall things at the elementary level, especially here at Lawsonville, has gone very well. And I think a lot of that goes to our preparation. I think as you instructed us from the get-go, the controllable things has been a very important philosophy for us here as well, because obviously there are lots of things that we have no ability to control. So we're controlling the things that we can control. And I think as a district, I think you guys have prepared us very well for our relaunch. And a lot of the evidence that I can give to that is a couple weeks ago when I sat in one of the board meetings, and there were lots of questions that the board had about our relaunch. And I thought it was very cool that I felt that I was prepared, that I could have answered any of the questions that the board directed towards you all. And I think that goes back to our preparation. So thank you. And I've tried to do that very same thing as far as our staff here at Lawsonville. And I've tried to preach to them that there is no way possible that we can prepare for every scenario that we could potentially face, and we'll kill ourselves trying to do that. So I've, again, control the controllables, and I think I've finally gotten them to understand that. And I think that we all have a solid foundation. All of our building administrators have a solid foundation, and we can pull from that foundation to deal with any scenario that might come up. Dr. Jenny Carpenter used to say that we'll figure it out, and I think we will. And I think we've done a good job of that over the first 2 weeks of figuring a lot of things out. I do want to brag on my teachers a little bit as they prepared our parents. I gave them a list of things that I wanted them to cover in their orientation sessions, and my media coordinator put together a PowerPoint or a slideshow, Google slideshow, to share with parents during the orientation session, and that was very, very successful, and I'm very proud of my parents. We had 100% of our parents show up for the orientation session, and as far as I can tell, based on their response, they felt that was very beneficial for them, and they left with a fairly good understanding of what the remote piece of the learning was going to look like. So I was very pleased. I was very proud of our parents for making it a priority to come to those sessions. And again, we had 100%. I didn't have any no-shows. So that was very, very, I was very excited about that. And again, I attribute that to us being prepared. As we started remote learning last week, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I sat in on as many of the live Google Meets as I could during the first week, and I was shocked to see how many students were involved. Most of my screens during those Google Meet sessions were full of rural faces, so I was very, very pleased with that. And from what I can tell through Google Classroom and through the live Google Meets, all of our students have participated and been engaged in some way. So that I'm very, very pleased with how that's started so far. From what I can tell from my colleagues at a meeting last week, all of us have been very pleased with our attendance thus far in the Google Meets and the engagement that we are seeing in our communities, especially up here. Of course, internet access is always going to be an issue, but I'm proud to say that somehow my parents are making it work, and I'm honestly not sure how they're doing it, but they're doing it somehow, and I appreciate their efforts to get access for their students, whether it be through a hotspot or going to a hotspot or having a hotspot. I do know of at least one parent that's gone to Walmart and purchased one of those Straight Talk phones just for the hotspot, and they're able to access the Google Meets that way. So they're definitely stepping up a little bit and thinking out of the box as far as how they can get access. There are a few concerns that have been shared with me as far as going forward. The orientation and the overall, the first week has gone extremely well, but a couple of things that have been brought to my attention as far as going forward. Some of my teachers are worried how long these hotspots are going to hold out and how long the students are going to have access, because of course, using the hotspot, if they don't have unlimited data, that's going to eat up their data packages, and so I'm not sure how long that's going to last. Hopefully, again, they'll step up and work it out. But that was one of the concerns, and some of the teachers are a little concerned as far, not necessarily afraid, but just concerned what the blended learning is going to look like once some of the students are back in the building. The remote has gone very well, but a few are not sure how that's going to look as far as having students in the building and the students working remotely. And the last concern that's been brought to my attention is how switching, the possibility, the potential for switching back and forth from Plan B to Plan A, Plan B to Plan C, and Plan C to Plan B. One of my colleagues described it as the yo-yo effect, and I agree. That was one of the concerns that was shared with me. So overall, the first 2 weeks have gone extremely well. Couldn't have asked for it to be better. There have been a few tech glitches, but we've worked it out and made it work. I have a little phrase that I've tried to use this year that positive attitude will find a way. And I'm going to put something on my sign this afternoon that says positive attitude is more contagious than COVID-19. So it's good. It's good start at Lawsonville.
Mr. Ottaway, can you repeat that last part?
I said I was going to add something to my sign today that says a positive attitude is more contagious than COVID-19.
Love it, thank you. And whatever you all just did in the boardroom, that took care of the background noise that us on the computer was hearing, so thank you.
All right, thank you. We're still trying to get it all fixed. Ms. Jackson, would you like to give the middle school report?
Have we lost the boardroom now?
Are you muted? And Ms. Jackson, if you could give the middle school report now?
Okay, can everybody hear? I guess a thumbs up is what we tell all the kids. Greg, I felt like you and I had discussed what we were going to say today. It was kind of weird that Greg and I are on opposite ends, I guess you'd say, of the county, but he said a lot of things that I was going to say. First of all, thank you for this opportunity, but as far as open house, I will start there. We kind of develop the same philosophy here as control what you can control. So at open house, everything to me went very smoothly here, kind of on the same lines as Greg. Mr. Ross and I had worked all summer on a relaunch or a return kind of manual. I had taken everything from the state, Department of Health and Human Services, all of those things, and kind of developed our own little condensed manual version because we knew that probably Plan B was where we were headed. So we had everything in place. We also gave expectations to our teachers for open house as far as what the expectations would be. With same thing. We had PowerPoints or Google Slides for Google Classroom tutorial for the parents, for the students. We had everything on there as far as expectations, and the positive feedback we received was kind of the same like Greg was saying. Parents felt like they were having one-on-one sessions with the teachers, and which you do not get that at a traditional open house. It's come in, say hello, and move on and go to someone else. So the parents felt like it was more personal, and they had time to ask questions that they were confused about. And at that time, when we were going to be on Plan B, my staff was very comfortable with what we had in place here at Southeastern, as far as all of our procedures and protocols. Same kind of thing. We kind of got into one of those, it was almost like an infinite loop discussion when it's, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I finally just had to say, we could sit here and what if all day long. These are, our protocols and our procedures, and we'll just control what we can control and take it as it happens. But I do feel confident, and my staff does too. They have said so. They feel, as far as their health and safety and our cleaning procedures and all of that, they feel safe with all of that. We had 96% in attendance for open house that week, and like I said, again, went very well. I popped into all of our Google Meets last week, got a chance to pop into every little class at some point in time through the week. Some classes were having 100% attendance, And I met with my teachers, and as far as this plan, our totally remote learning is going, here are some of the thoughts that they've had. Some teachers have felt like it's easier than they thought. It has. They feel like attendance has been good. We do have students that aren't showing up. They show up for their PE class, but not their math class, that type of thing. So our teachers are on that. It would kind of be like the same thing if they were here. So we're kind of trying to figure out where they are, and obviously they like PE better than they do math or English or whatever. Sticking to the pacing guide has been a little bit of an issue right now. It's been told you must stick to that pacing guide, and it's kind of unrealistic right now because of lag time in computers. When we're all here in the classroom, it's a little bit easier to control because we're all sitting there, but at home, waiting for students to load something or go to Nearpod and a slideshow, teachers are saying, give me a thumbs up, and it's, we're waiting. So lots of times it's taking a little bit longer to cover material. They love being able to control right now. It's almost like having them in the classroom, I guess you would say, because they can control what's going on with all of them. But it can be difficult with attendance. Like I said, we're trying to track that attendance the best we can. Internet going in and out, those are some concerns that we have. But those are hiccups that we are dealing with. On the same lines with what Greg was saying going forward, concerns that we have with switching then to Plan B. Half of the kids in the classroom and half on the computer. Teachers are really having a difficult time figuring out how that's going to look and how they're going to be able to, watch what the students at home are doing, because right now they can kind of control all of that. But I'll be honest with you, when I have grade levels, I have a few teachers who do our grade level meetings virtually right now, and while the others of us are socially distanced in a classroom, I don't focus on my computer. I focus on the people that are sitting in front of me, and that's what these teachers are going to be doing. And the moving around, I know we talked about Bluetooth headsets and all of that, but there's a lot of components here that I think need to be considered when you have half of your students in a classroom and half of them at home. We feel like the issues will be worse. Right now it's going well. It's more work on the teachers, honestly, for Plan B than what they're doing right now. Stopping class to clean, that's another thing that we're concerned about. As far as supervision in the hallways, this is middle school. We know what they're capable of doing. We've had some that were wondering if we do a Plan B, the consistency of AA, BBB, AAA, BB, those type things. I know that we discussed having one day in the middle of the week, like a Wednesday, being totally remote for cleaning. But we also, the flip side of that was, bus drivers and child nutrition and payment and things like that. I'm just throwing out my concerns that my teachers had. But they would be more happy, I guess you would say, if we were on that Plan B to do more consistent of 2 days a week and one day being totally remote. Bottom line for our teachers kind of came down to, if we have to do anything, it's either Plan C or Plan A. They feel like Plan B is probably, I don't want to say it's the worst. That didn't come out the way I wanted it to. It's just that's the inconsistency there that we would have with students as far as that is concerned. So I guess that's all I have right now. I'm sure things will come up as I hear other people talk. But anyway, that's my faculty's take on all of that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Spainhour, the high school report.
All right, good morning, everyone. Before I get started, I do want to just take a quick moment. Mr. Nathan Racy, not with us today. I know the news that we've been given, not many details, but that he's broke his hip, and I just want to recognize him and recognize, as a group, I know that we have a lot of praying people on this Google Meet, and he's somebody that has been in my thoughts and prayers over the last 48 hours. So I wanted just to mention Mr. Racy. I was able to talk to pretty much all the high school principals about their experience with open house orientation. Several of the principals gave me some good hard data, and so I want to share that with you. And then I'll kind of piggyback a little bit what Rhonda was talking about as I spoke to principals and the concerns that the high school folks may have moving forward. First of all, I'll say that the orientation or open house experience was tremendous in our high schools. Well attended by everybody. I mean, we're talking 97, 98% attendance across the board. Meadowbrook, Paul Hall told me that he had, very high attendance, over 80% attendance at his place too. Meadowbrook's got over 75% of their kids engaged last week in instruction. That's tremendous in my opinion for what's going on in these trying times. To have over 75% of our kids at the alternative school engaged in school on week one is definitely awesome. But the overall feel of the open house and orientation time was very positive across the board. As we moved into Plan C and remote learning this past week, I was completely shocked by the attendance, and we had better attendance in week one of remote learning than West Stokes has ever had in face-to-face instruction. And I don't know what that says about the future of education. It's a little concerning to me, but we had great attendance, and from talking to everybody, it sounds like most everyone had really good attendance. West Stokes had 98% attendance in week one. 97% at South Stokes. I mean, the numbers for attendance is remarkable. One of the things that we tried to identify, and I think all of us speak to all of our principals, one of the things that we as principals worked in week one trying to identify were those students that had either no internet or very spotty, poor quality internet. Here at West Stokes, again, a crazy statistic to me, but we had identified that there were only 8 students that we are aware of with no internet. We have another probably 12 to 15 students that have very spotty or very low, poor quality internet at West Stokes, and so those students sometimes have a struggle with getting into Google Meets or being able to sustain and stay on a Google Meet for a long period of time. The other, and to that avail, like Jonna had mentioned at South Stokes, that they had, I think, about 25 students, kind of the same, with some internet struggles. And so one of the things that across the board we as principals are trying to do is identify those students that have internet struggles and then try to mediate those issues, try to figure out ways for the teacher to work with them, depending on how we go about doing that, what's the best mode to do that. We've had a couple students that have rolled up to our parking lot and have used our hotspot last week, so that was a positive as well. And we had a student that was here at 7:45 this morning to get a new Chromebook because his Chromebook crashed over the weekend. And so I think what we're seeing across the board is students that have not been in school for 5.5 months. And I think there is a honeymoon period right now where students students are kind of really excited about getting back involved with school. Like Rhonda, I popped into several Google Meets last week, was able to say hello to students, and there's some excitement from the students to be doing what we're doing. And so, to me, we had a tremendous week at West Stokes. It sounds like when I talked to the other high school principals, they all had a very good week as well. One of the, I guess, concerns is, as Rhonda was saying, this transition to Plan B and what that will look like. And I know we talked as a leadership group last week and shared some of these concerns, and I am in agreement that our teachers and our schools will figure things out, as Greg said. I know that we are going to figure things out, but the concept of having face-to-face instruction along with students plugged in and meeting virtually synchronously is really a tough one for our teachers to kind of wrap their brains around, especially at the elementary level. I think it would be very difficult to have half a class full of first graders that are face-to-face, wanting your attention and needing your attention as a teacher, and also being able to provide the attention that the kids behind the computer need. And so that is a concern, and I think we're going to do our best moving forward. But one thing that we've noticed here at the high school level is that when that teacher, just like we all are doing right now, is devoting their full attention to the Google Meet, and I'm in front of my desktop computer and in front of my webcam, and I'm able to read that chat room, that chat board and comment board, then the teacher can interact and meet kids' needs as they pop up. And again, in week one, that went really well, and I believe as we continue to go down this path, as students get used to this, they're going to get used to having a teacher's attention, so to speak, through this computer. And so one of the concerns as we move to the hybrid is how will those students that are behind that computer screen, how are they going to feel when they can't get the attention of that teacher right away? And will that cause some lack of interest or some unmotivated students to possibly check out a little bit more? And that's a concern that I know our teachers have had here at West, is navigating that hybrid model and being able to keep kids engaged. I will say that one of the things several of our high schools are doing, and here at West we've done, is to create a remediation time where students are able to join a Google Meet at a designated time period. So every one of our teachers has 30 minutes during the school day where they are turning on a Google Meet, and they are available during that 30-minute chunk of time for any type of tutoring, remediation, answering any questions. And we've also invited our parents. Our parents can access that Google Meet if they want to get on there and talk to the teacher at that designated time as well. And we've seen some success in that already in week one. We've had up to 7 students in that remediation meeting in one of our classes already in math. So trying to build in and find that time at the high school level is a little bit easier because the structure of the high school schedule. I recognize how difficult it would be to try to build that into an elementary schedule and understand that, but trying to find some time to offer students that remediation time is crucial in my opinion. And so I know several of our high schools are doing that, trying to find that time designated where kids can access their teachers one-on-one or small group or whatnot. So the hybrid is a concern, as Rhonda said. Can we figure it out? Can we move in that direction? We're going to do the best we can. The other concern that West Stokes has, and it might be unique to me, have either in some form or fashion been quarantined or had to work remotely based on interaction or exposure, or we've had one teacher test positive. So one of the concerns that I have as we kind of go down this journey is at what point will the threshold for any school be able to hold up in the number of subs that we can get, and how do we go about, how does a sub go about interacting with students, or that, and offering the students the same experience? That's difficult. And so trying to, I guess, navigate a teacher, the school's attendance from a staffing standpoint, that to me is something that concerns me. I think I would be even more concerned if I was at a very small elementary school that may have a couple teachers have to be quarantined or have to be out, and what does that look like? And so it is difficult to get subs. There's not many subs that want to come into this environment. We've tried to reach out and get some subs that were on the line and ready to go. We're also looking at using our TAs to sub, but there are definite challenges as we continue down this road. I think the staffing issue, at least at West Oaks High School, is something that concerns me. So, but overall, we had a great first week, and we hope that the honeymoon period doesn't end. Questions?
Board members, any questions of anyone in the group?
No, thanks for all you're doing.
I have some questions. I'm sorry, I had to unmute. If I may, Mr. Rogers.
Okay.
Okay. Question about assignments, and anybody can answer this. When are assignments due? Are they due during, or are they due by the end of the day, or do they have a certain number of days? And this might vary from level or class. Can somebody address that?
I'll speak on at our school, our teachers are kind of keeping kind of the same routine that they've had if they were sitting face to face. Some assignments may have a little more time, but we've also coached my teacher that we cannot be hard-nosed about some things because everybody's situation is different. So our teachers are really good at being in tune. Students might have to stay at grandma and grandpa the day without internet, have to do, at night. They know those students, and right now we've got a few concerns when I talked with them on Friday about those kids. But they're doing just like they would if we were on plan A, same type situation. If they were sitting there not doing their work, they're making contact with those parents as well as students right now. And like Kevin said, we're kind of in the honeymoon period right now. We've only got 1 week under our belt to really, it's going to take a couple of weeks or maybe 3 till we figure out the routine of some of these students right now.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Is that about the same for everybody?
Not necessarily the assignments, but that another plus of the orientation. During those times, our teachers were able to get a lot of information about where the students would be during the day, where they would be at night, when they would most likely be completing the assignments. So that was just another very positive of the orientation sessions.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. The next question, everybody has their typical might be at risk educationally, but just at risk. And the ones that have been on the guidance counselors' radars over the years are the guidance counselors and our social workers. In addition to the teachers, are they helping reach out to the students or even making some home visits at this point, or how's that going?
Katie, at the high school level, we have our teachers fill out what we're calling a virtual engagement form. And so initially, last week, it was if there's been no contact at all with the student, we wanted to know about it. And so then our guidance counselors have access to those responses coming back from our teachers. And our guidance counselors are making those phone calls home and trying to make those contacts. What we did on Friday, administration and guidance worked together to basically cross-reference who guidance has talked to and who our teachers have identified. And then we made a list. It was a very short list. Surprisingly, there's only 12 students at West Stokes High School that have not engaged at all with a teacher and had not heard, counselor had not heard from them. There was only 12, which is less than 2% of our student body. And so we have identified, and we're giving Gina Barneycastle, our social worker, we're giving her those names. So hopefully she can help us track down those students. But I think across the board, we are implementing and using our counselors at the school building level to help facilitate that engagement.
Very good. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to speak to that?
Ms. Tedder, I'll speak for London. What we are doing is, in addition to the teachers contacting students, we are utilizing our special teachers, and they are assigned a grade level, and one assistant for the kindergartners. And we are doing a weekly check-in, or every other week, an every other week check-in with groups of 1 to 4 students. And if someone seems like and it's just a social emotional check-in, and if we're not getting any participation, they will document that, and then it goes to our counselor. If they seem like they're under the weather, social emotionally, then our counselor will also check on them. And then if we need some help, then that's when we will refer to Ms. Bloom for her to help us to make a house call maybe, or go a little further.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. That is very encouraging. Anyone else on that topic?
I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear me or not. This is Ms. Miller from Mount Olive. I just typed it into the chat box, but my counselor, it's just like what Kevin has said and what Lisa has said. They're doing a lot of check-ins with the teachers to see who is not engaged, and then also the ones that were already on our radar, like you said. Not necessarily a technological issue, but just they were on our radar because we had concerns about lots of different things. So they have made phone calls, and in a few cases, several cases actually, gone out to try to do home visits. And we have a few that, of course, the home visits, nobody was there or they wouldn't answer the phone. So we'll do follow-up home visits and then try to reach out to DSS because of some of those concerns that just kind of keep mounting, and not being able to see the kids certainly make those concerns worse. So that's what we're trying to do, is just use them for that. And like Lisa said, we're using the specials teachers. The specials teachers are very excited, I think, about being able to be used to support that. I mean, of course, they're doing their class stuff too, but they have a different connection with a lot of the kids. So they were excited about being able to reach out to some of the kids that we know need that extra little, pat on the back, if you want to say that, if you want to call it that, but just that extra little knowing that somebody is thinking about them and misses them. And so it's awesome to have the specials teachers to be able to do some of that. I have to agree with
assignment. It is just, let me check on you, let's have fun, let's just chit chat, let's bond a little bit, let's build some trust together. I really think that they like that as well.
Are they doing that individually sometimes, or sometimes as a group as well?
Yes, both. It's a combination. So if there are some, like, we have certain kids that we know we have got to check in on. And so, like, for example, Mr. Goodson, there's a certain little boy that we just know responds well to him, so he's doing a one-on-one phone call to that one. So it's kind of a blend of both a group thing, but then also reaching out individually for just a phone call, a regular old phone call.
That's great. So they're getting socialization with their peers during this time as well. Is that right?
I think a lot of what my special teachers are, they're starting with a group of 4, so it's just a small group and they can learn to trust each other. And then if someone seems like they're not participating or not comfortable, then they'll do a one-on-one meeting with them. But they're going to continue to try to keep them in that group of 4 meeting. They'll just do an additional meeting to do a one-on-one with them.
Okay, great. One more question. For those of you that have self-contained rooms, EC self-contained, how's that going?
This is Sam from Poplar. We have 2 adaptive classrooms here. I think it's, our participation has been really well with that. We've tried to problem solve. I think the orientation is kind of just echoing everybody else with Gen Ed. It's been beneficial. It's certainly not, I don't want to paint a perfect picture, but we've been able to meet with our students in some productive times. I would say that we have a couple that were probably even more engaged than normal through this, whether they're at home in a comfortable environment or, you give me 2 hours or, it's not 2 hours in one sitting, but throughout the day. So, I mean, it's good. I think it follows in line with other people or with our general ed, regular ed students as well. We certainly have some that we need to problem solve around that we're doing, but overall it's been pretty good this first 5, it's just 5 days in, and so we're still problem solving around some of our concerns as well. We still have some of those ICP meetings that we're having every day, and so we need to continue working through those as well.
Okay.
At Walnut Cove, this is Chris at Walnut Cove, by the way. I'll just echo what Sam's saying at his school. We have 2 classrooms here. Of our 14 students that do not have internet, 4 of them are in the adapted classroom, so we've been having to work with them other ways, Class Dojo, and we've been recording lessons and doing a flash drive exchange. So, well, like he said, it's still early days, but so far we've had good participation.
And I would jump in. This is Daniel Bryan at King, but I think they covered it pretty well. It is difficult because the students in certain situations require lots more one-on-one attention that the parents may or may not be able to give because of circumstances. So our teachers are trying really hard to accommodate those needs with individual meetings, but lessons that you could do in class easily with a group that require one-on-one, there's just not enough time in the day to try and deliver that exact same type of instruction that you would do. So they're just making adjustments and doing the best that they can.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank y'all for your input.
All right.
You want to dismiss them?
Last thing, the thoughts that came to my mind while I've been listening to everybody, and then I'm going to shut up, I promise. 2 concerns that I have. One thing I told my teachers about Plan C is I know it's going well. My teachers I think all of our schools, all of the teachers jumped in and not, but made it work. But one thing when I get too comfortable, I don't want this to be the norm. In the back of my mind, it's not what I want school to be. I want the kids back in the building. but at the same time, I want us to do what is best for our students. Our students are in a face-to-face course. Students come to us every week, same time, Monday through Friday. They are used to that routine, and I think that is why this Plan C has been working, because students are in class the same time, Monday through Friday. It's rhythmic for them. They have to get into that rhythm. And I'm afraid that with the Plan B, while I want students back in the building, all of my teachers want them back in the building, with that type of hybrid, you're now getting students out of that rhythm. And we're all creatures of habit. And that's one of the concerns that I have with going back and forth with this. And I understand that we want, like I said, everybody back in the building, but I also have to look at the big picture and what might be best for our students. And then the last thing, I just want to ask a question. Has it been discussed to resurvey our staff now that we are been to a new school year and the expectations are different? The survey that results from the spring of parents and staff, to me, that's not comparing apples to apples here, because the expectations in the spring, there really weren't any. I mean, the governor kind of tied our hands on that. So there were no true expectations. And I'm just wondering, have we considered, our staff they have a lot to say, good and bad, and helpful things, and they're not going to get on social media to do that. So my concern is that, maybe we consider sending a new survey out to our staff, and then parents last, because I think our staff, they're the ones at the front lines right now. And I know parents have a lot on them as well, but maybe just that to be a consideration, and I am done.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Thank you all. I'd like to, Ms. Taylor and the board, at our school, when I talked with our teachers, I asked them to be sure and let students know what work would be graded, so those parents who have to do this in the evenings would be able to prioritize and make sure that they do what's most important. And we've talked about flexibility. I mean, I'm not talking like 2 weeks, but within 3 days of assignments that they expect to be graded to have, those turned in, and there will always be extenuating circumstances. But I feel like we're trying to meet parents where they are, because not everybody can do this during the day when we're online and they're having to watch recordings. So I felt like being able to prioritize would maybe meet the needs of some of those who don't have quite as much time to access this as others. Very good, and just thank you all so very much. This feedback has been very important and insightful, and just phenomenal with your numbers, your open house percentages, and your online percentages. I never thought that it would be that high. But I am not surprised, because you all are a fantastic team, and I appreciate you all so much. So please just relay that to your staff, that I'm proud, and keep up the good work, y'all.
Principals, I'd like to thank you for your time this morning. Board members in the boardroom say that they have no more questions. So principals, if you'd like to go back to running your schools, thank you for joining us today, and thank you very much. But you're dismissed from the meeting, if you would.
Okay, next on
the second part of this one, I'd like to just kind of switch a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got some guests here.
And so the second part of this I would like to discuss is, this summer there was the issue that was brought up in our community about daycare issues. and the lack of daycare opportunities in Stokes County. And Mr. Rose and I were both asked by several people in the community and board members at times if we would be able to explore other options. And I know that we have been in contact with different churches about the options that have not worked out yet, and different people. But two people that Stokes County Schools has partnered with in the past are the YMCA and Insight through Junior Blast. And they have worked with us in the past with after-school programs, and so I've reached out to both of them to ask if they would be able to help us with during-the-day programming. That while our buildings are not closed by the governor, but so we still have that option available, could they come into, we kind of polled our schools to see if there were empty classrooms that we might could do this, still following the rules that we have of.
We're talking, I can't hear anything.
All right, can you hear us now? Ms. Tedder, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can, but since the principal's left, I couldn't hear, so I don't know if I missed anything.
Well, yes, I was just introducing the daycare issues of, we were asked to explore daycare issues, and we tried some community stuff unsuccessfully. So then we went to our after-school partners with Insight Human Services and the YMCA. The YMCA, for years now, has serviced our King community and Walnut Cove, and Insight has done a lot of the other schools in the county. Insight has done theirs through a 21st Century Schools grant that has paid for that staff, and the Y has been a pay service to pay for staffing and those type things. And so I reached out to them to see if they would be if it was possible to do some during the day programming. And so the YMCA at King has been able to do that in their buildings, and we've looked at starting one at Walnut Cove where the after-school program was. They were able to get some staff for that, and they've just made that available to people to start signing up for that. We would follow the same social distancing, low class sizes in the room, in available classrooms that are not being used right now. And so an Insight is still working to try to secure some extra funding with grants to see if that's a possibility with them. Because they were grant funded, there was a finite amount of funds that didn't allow for, 8, 10, 12 hours a day of daycare, but they've been looking at that, and they've been great partners with this. And so I know last week there was some concerns brought up that Stokes County Schools was looking to charge students to come into the buildings. And that is not the case. We were trying to help the community look at some daycare opportunities that has Wi-Fi. And again, the Y was able to secure some staffing for that during the day in a location where they've done after-school care in the past. But again, those staff members would have to be paid. There's just not a grant-funded program. Insight is still looking at that, and that may be an option here in the future. We're still working on that. We have representatives from both the Y and Insight here with us today if any board members have any questions.
Ms. Knight?
I guess my first question would be for the YMCA, or really maybe it's not for them, maybe it's for just the misconception online. And did you cover that, how the misconception occurred as far as stating it was almost like a virtual academy or something of that nature, so I wasn't sure.
Well, part of their advertisement did mention a virtual academy, but that, again, that is because of the opportunity of internet. Kids would have the opportunity to log in with their teachers and to do the synchronous instruction while we're in Plan C, while we're there. So they have that opportunity to continue their education while they're in that program. But it's not a virtual academy. It's not a Stokes County Schools virtual academy. Again, they've been offering this at their YMCA location. This just gives them a satellite location in Walnut Cove.
And how many slots or students are able to participate?
Right now, they're looking at a 10-to-1 ratio of 10 students in a classroom with 1 adult. And as of this morning, they said they had an interest of 8 students so far, of 8 students at the Walnut Cove location.
Okay, so as that grows, there would be like a second room? Possibly?
If they can find staffing, that's the biggest issue is, yes, we have some empty spaces in all of our schools, But staffing is more the issue, to try to make sure that they have trained people that clear their background checks. And again, they have to have enough interest to put it in. Obviously, we can't serve, 6,000 students this way, but it's a way to try to help, and with a lack of daycare in Stokes County.
Right. I'm grateful for the opportunity and for in the YMCA to be able to partner and to offer it. I was just trying to understand the anger or upsetness, that I was hearing, or maybe we all were, from community members, and I think it was a gist of frustration maybe at the state level as to,
Well, some of the questions that came up is, if we can have a daycare or a virtual academy in our schools, how can we not have school? And so, one, it is one room that is easy to clean and disinfect, one room versus an entire school, all those locations. And so we can make sure that we had that room clean. But also, daycare does have different requirements and restrictions right now from the governor's office than schools do. And so but we were still talking about, again, using that social distancing in a classroom of 10 students in a room, and not try to put 20 or 25 in there, because again, even though it would not be a school setting, it's in a school setting, and we want to be consistent with that. They also do have, if there is a financial need, they can reach out to the Y, and they work with families individually. They've done that in the past with their after-school program, and they have said that they would be willing to do that during the day program as well.
And I sort of got the gist of, yes, frustration with the state and kind of like not understanding if students can come into the school almost, like you said, school is free, then where's the school staff? But I think it's the understanding that our school staff is very busy, and we as Stokes County Schools can't offer classrooms with almost like a child care type situation or daycare environment.
Right. There are some school districts that do after-school daycare as a district, but they have to charge that for a fee. Kind of like we talk about child nutrition as an enterprise program.
Right.
It has to make money in order to pay their staff, because we don't get any state or federal dollars for any type of child care. Ours is for straight education. And again, until we're ready to go to Plan B, and we'll discuss that here in just a minute, we're not able to do that yet, but we can do that in a classroom by classroom setting of one classroom, maybe two classrooms in a school at a time.
Ms. Messick, do you have anything?
I just have a few questions. Mr. Edwards, at this time, you have classes, you have a program that you're running right now for students. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. We're running e-learning academies. We're running that at Stokes County right now. And just to concur with Dr. Rice, we're following all CDC recommendations and social distancing. That's going very well. So the Warren Code site is an effort to serve further geographically. We have history at the Warren Code elementary site, and so that's the idea of moving there. We feel like registration, we just opened that up, so we think that will ramp up once we get the word to the community that will happen.
And they understand that it's paid per child.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it has to be, yeah.
Going back to this night, going back to last Thursday, I think there was, Dr. Rice and I talked about this at length, both on Thursday and Friday. I think there was some misunderstanding in the community that this program was actually being offered through Stokes County Schools versus Stokes County YMCA, potentially inside the junior class as well. So, just to clarify, it is offered through Stokes County YMCA. Hopefully inside will also be able to offer some programming. In fact, by the end of the evening on Thursday, a misconception that was out on social media, there was a person that went out, removed their post, clarified their position, and said thank you for offering it. So I truly do believe there was some misperception, miscommunication
Do you hope to open one up in the Lawsonville area?
Potentially, we're gonna see how this goes and who we're serving and then what Insight's able to do and what school systems need. We're always in contact with Dr. Ross, Dr. Taylor, Ms. Rhodes, and if there's a need there, we will serve. That's what we're here for, is to serve our community.
And would they be housed at Lawsonville Elementary or?
I think that would be to be determined, yes, ma'am.
Okay, to be determined.
We
So-
have looked at empty space at Piney Grove, Lawsonville, both of those locations, if we can get the interest and the staffing to make those needs happen.
Right. Would that be before school and after school, or how would that work?
Once school returns as we'll use the word as normal, we would offer after-school programming. Traditionally, we have not had the demand for before-school programming. We're certainly open to providing that. We've just not had, the community's not had the need for it in the past.
Okay, but you would be able to offer the after-school kind of like you have in other areas in our county.
Always, yes, ma'am. Anywhere that junior class is unable to serve, we can serve, or vice versa.
Okay.
We've talked to Terry, and we know what she's doing, she knows what we're doing, and we coordinate all that with Dr. Rice, Dr. Taylor.
Well, we're certainly glad that you're trying to, expand, because there is a real need for child care, and so I know that would be appreciated, and I'm glad people are understanding what the parameters are. Because so thank you for doing that. We appreciate it so much.
And Mr. Rose has worked with Insight, and they have advertised, I believe, last week through Lawsonville's website and reaching out to see about that need, because Junior Blast is going to serve Lawsonville area this year for the first time anyway. So that's in the works for after-school care there, if there's enough interest. Again, there needs to be children there in order to have the program, but we're gauging the interest now, and they're looking to assist that with the after-school.
I wondered how the survey was going thus far. Were people really being made aware? Was there links on the Facebook page to direct people to the survey? Other than just the Lawsonville website.
I forget exactly what the wording was on there, whether it was to contact Insight or contact the school. I can't remember exactly.
Ms. Fowler?
Yes. So it was to contact Insight. So we are planning to open after-school care at all 7 of our sites on September 14th. And the hours will run from 1:30 to 5. The hours, So the hours, so we are planning to open at all 7 sites on September 14th. And the hours will be from 1:30 to 5:30. And the students would be able to log on from the 1:30 to 2:30 onto their Chromebooks and finish their work or do their work, and we would have folks there that would be able to help them. And then we hire tutors to help during the school year. So our tutors then would come in, and our tutors are certified teachers, and they would come in after they finish their schoolwork to help the students. And so most of the tutors are employees of that particular elementary school. So there is the chance for the tutors to be able to talk to the teachers in the building and know exactly what Johnny or Susie needs to be doing so that they can help them with that. And so right now at Lawsonville, we have 5 students. And at all the other sites, we have anywhere from 8 to 11 students that have signed up to come. And so I hope that we didn't confuse anything with the Y or with anybody else, because we are signing, we can sign up as many as 30 to 35 students. And so people are trying to get their spots so that when school does start back, their child would be able to be in the program. So we're doing a little virtual thing with those students that have signed up, because a couple of schools we're already full. We already have 30 students that have signed up, but they're not all going to come when we start on September 14th. And so our tutors are going to be getting on and helping those students virtually in the afternoons, like from 3:30 to 4:30. So those students would still be able to take advantage of having tutoring, even though they're not coming into the building but they've secured their spot so that when we do start back to school, they will have after-school care.
And on the days that they're not at school or that's their off day and they're at home, you know, are they able to be brought in, but it
Yes.
doesn't open till 1:30?
Yes,
Okay.
at 1:30 they can come. Whether it's an A day or a B day, we've had parents request that. So
Okay.
several of them are staying with their grandparents and then they're dropping them off at 1:30 so that they can get called up, have internet access and get called up on their school. There'll be someone there that'll be able to help them. We'll have 2 employees at each site, and then we'll have another person that'll go in for half of the time that they're there.
Okay.
I did want to ask a question.
Yes.
This has been kind of an ongoing thing, the junior blast in the schools. And what year did you start that?
We have been doing some type of after-school programming, either through a governor's grant. In the past, we've been doing that for 20 years.
I thought it's been a long time.
But the grant that we have from DPI, we've probably been doing that for 8 years. And then we do plan to reapply for another 3 years at the end of this year.
And it's a 3-year cycle?
Yes.
And it's a governor's grant?
No, this is from the Department of Public Instruction.
Okay.
Prior to that, we had grants that came out of the governor's office.
Oh, okay.
We had some TANF grants through DSS and things like that. But for 20 years, we've been doing some programs.
Well, that's wonderful that, you know, you had the incentive to do that and to help your, you know, Insight program by offering this. That's just such a plus for all the children in the county and really to help parents. How do they apply?
So there is an application process, and the schools have had that on their website. And then we also take principal recommendations. So if a principal knows that there is a family that needs to be in the program, then we reach out. They have priority. We also work with DSS, and those students and foster care students take priority as well. So that's sometimes when we fluctuate between 30 and 35, because we have those 5 spaces for those students in each site.
So that's probably the little mix up there.
It could be
with the pricing.
Because we did say, I mean, because people have signed up knowing that their students are going to have some virtual help in the evening. So I didn't know anything about all of that, but we could have muddied the waters with that, and we apologize if that is the case.
But I can see where people got that mixed up. And do you call yours, at the wire, you call it Virtual Academy?
It's an e-learning academy.
We
refer to it, we like acronyms.
E-learning
We
academy.
call it ELA.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then you just have people to come in, and you know that gives extra money to people that want to do that after school.
Yes,
if,
they're
able to.
Yes, we employ some of your teachers, some of your cafeteria staff, some of your teacher assistants.
That's great, and I realized you did that, but I'm so glad you continued that. And really, both of you have just done such great service to the community, and I'm so glad you've reached out to other areas that's needed. Thank you for that.
Ms. Taylor, do you have any questions?
No questions, just gratitude for both agencies and helping out with student needs, as always.
Okay, thank you. Thank y'all. Yo.
Tonight, a couple of housekeeping items. Actually, sorry for your loss. Sympathies from the wife who lost their clothes. We'll have Mr. Gracie, of course, in our prayers as well. I'm really remiss without saying, if nobody's told you all you're doing a great job lately, you're doing a great job. Thank you for everything you do. It is absolutely our pleasure, and I'm sure I speak for Terry as well. It's our pleasure to be a collaborative partner with Stokes County Schools. I have a special guest with me today. After today, she won't be a special guest. She'll be coming with us as we have items. Kim McClure is our VP of Youth Development for our 7 County Association. So it was great for her to get the principal's perspective today and to hear from you all. So thank you for allowing us to be here.
Welcome, Kim.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.
All right.
All right, next on the agenda real quickly, if Mr. Rose would talk about some internship opportunities.
I would be glad to, Dr. Rice. Thank you.
Hold on. Y'all are welcome to stay, or at this point it may get a little boring. Just forewarning, you're not going to offend us. I've heard Doug talk before.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay.
I would like to just echo a little bit of what was said earlier. I'd like to just echo a little bit of what was said earlier. As I've gone around and talked to our teachers, we kind of referred to it as the month-long week because there was a lot of work that went into that. And as a father of 3 students in our school district, I will say that they did an excellent job of mimicking a regular school start. The very first day when my little girl got home from kindergarten, she was asleep when Shannon brought her in the room, just like the boys had been for kindergarten previously. And I saw the rigor there, and I saw all of the work that went into that. And then I have seen other teachers who have shared their resources, been teaching different things that you can do within Google and showing their peers how to take care of those things and problem solving, so that has been excellent. What I was here to talk to you about today, there are several experiences that our students have that are a little different than just the regular classroom that we cannot mimic through a virtual environment. First of all, I'll talk about our with our internships. I had collaborated, we kept these going over the summer, and it was Johnston County that had an internship agreement that they had used over the summer that I had pulled off of our CTE Moodle. And I shared that with Mr. Johnson, and he reviewed it and made some revisions. And that's what you have in your packet today. And that is a form that David Martin will use with each of our students who completes or is working within an internship. And that waiver receives parent, student, business partner, and Mr. Martin's signature just to verify that we are going to follow those guidelines per CDC requirement. And with guidance that came out in August within the Moodle and for guidelines for reopening during COVID, they did recommend gaining board approval to move forward within our internships. So that's one reason I want to bring that forward and present that to you. Also, I want to let you know about a meeting that we held last Thursday. I had our nursing fundamentals teachers, our carpentry teachers, our automotive teachers, Louise Cape, our CIMC, and a couple of our principals from the high school, and Dr. Rice attended as well, just to go over some of the work-based learning experiences. With our nursing fundamentals classes, they will not allow those skills to be demonstrated through a video. It has to be in person and hands-on per DPI guidance from Barbara Burke, who's over those nursing fundamentals programs with the state. So in talking to our nursing fundamental teachers, there are over 60 skills that these students need to practice and demonstrate before they go and take the CNA credentialing exam. So we would like to be able to bring those students back earlier. And again, there is a waiver in there for the nursing fundamentals that I've worked through with Tracy Moorfield, Candace Howell, and Kelly Dovey, our nursing fundamentals teachers at the high schools. And you can see that they have outlined the extra guidelines that we will follow, moving forward. And again, I have presented that to Mr. Johnson as well and gotten his feedback to make sure that it's got the proper wording in each detail there. I talked with our carpentry teachers, and last spring we did not have a core and sustainable construction class at South, so they are not starting behind on credentials. However, in talking with Mr. Robertson, we did have core and sustainable construction. So those students will need to go back and pick up, the ones that are in Carpenter 1 right now, will need to go back and pick up those additional credentials and then move forward into the Carpenter 1 credentials as well. So they will need to start a little earlier as well. And talking with Mr. Robertson and Mr. Mercer, I believe if we could get those students back mid-September, maybe a week early, they would be able to do what they need to do and start demonstrating the skills that they need to as far as meeting those credentials, getting the OSHA certifications, etc. Yes, ma'am?
Because right now they're behind due to the spring situation. Basically, they weren't able to attain those.
Yes, and the plan in talking with the other directors for CTE, the plan was that we would get the students back in the fall and move forward with those credentials from core and sustainable construction and get those out of the way initially and then move forward into the carpentry credential.
And all the teachers are good with that. They know time is an issue and getting those under their belt is important.
Right. Yeah. Right. And like I said, I talked with Mr. Robertson. He's the one that had the core and sustainable classes last spring and is needing to move forward with that. And then Mr. Spencer was in attendance with the automotive program, and he felt confident that he would be able to get, the hands-on experience that they needed to move forward with their credentialing and everything that they would need based on our current schedule or timeline. So basically what I'd be asking for moving forward would be that we go ahead and approve the internship practice. We have 53 students who are signed up and engaged in internships this semester. And then I would like to move forward on the timeline. With our nursing fundamentals classes, that is a small class anyway. We're not allowed to have over 10 students at a time in those classes. So I know that I believe 2 of them are full. We're talking about either 26 or 28 students there that we would try to bring back earlier to go ahead and start the skills practice as outlined in that waiver.
I'd like to make a motion that we move the CTE internship and the nursing fundamentals agreement to action.
You don't want to discuss it first?
We can.
Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Ms. Tanner, do you have any questions?
So the internships with Mr. Martin would continue with the work-based learning, per our normal procedure. The nursing fundamentals and the carpentry would mean bringing students back on campus. And it would just be the carpentry or masonry classes. It would not be core and sustainable. Those credentials we can make up when the students return per our normal timeline.
So just nursing and just construction, and you don't feel like automotive needs it? So
according to Mr. Spencer, they would be able to make it on our regular timeline of return. The most pressing issue is probably just, I appreciate having the board approval with the internships, per the guidance that came out in August from our State Department, the CTE department, to go ahead and get board approval for the internships as we move forward with that waiver.
So really, you're just needing internships. The other 2 would fall under the emergency action of the superintendent, would it not, Mr. Johnson? Okay. Ms. Messick, do you have any questions?
No, I think that I agree with him on that. I agree that
Ms. Taylor, do you have any comments you want to make? Okay. My concern, and really for you, Dr. Rice, is how do we allocate the resources to bring some students back because of some classes they're taking, and not all students back based on the classes they're taking? How do we set that precedence? Now, I'm not saying do, don't, either way, I understand, but we're telling construction, well, you can come back because you're gonna be behind, but if you're taking chemistry, you can't come back and you're gonna be behind, or any of those. Nursing fundamentals is being handled off-site, is it not? So they're gonna be in the classroom also?
Yes, sir. They have adjusted that so that we are able to do the skills practice within the classroom. To me, the biggest component, what you're speaking about, is that they have to do hands-on demonstrations, and it does involve that credentialing.
Right.
That credentialing will have to take place for nursing fundamentals. It is a testing center. And again, they won't allow the students to demonstrate the skill and send in a video. So it's very difficult to monitor or see how the student is gaining that skill without them having a live patient there to practice on. And then within the NC, CER credentials, you have to physically watch the student use that tool, demonstrate the skill, and move forward there.
But you're saying a live patient to practice on, but you're saying it's going to be in the school, so.
Yes, we'll have students who are the patient.
Okay.
The nurse comes in, and the nursing fundamentals teacher would be there to, voice concerns, to step in and help as needed. So this is just more, these classes, it is very difficult to show the hands-on experience unless they are there doing these skills hands-on.
Oh, I understand. I'm just concerned about the double standard that we could potentially expose ourselves to. We're good for some classes because they have to have hands-on, but we're not good for other classes because they're online.
Well, and part of this too is with that credentialing piece, where they have changed up the performance measure at the end of the class. These students, for them, this is the only means to show proficiency on the, there's not an end of course test, and there's no longer the 100 question test at the end. These credentials are their assessment.
Oh, trust me, I'm all for getting the kids back in the classroom.
Right.
Okay. All right, hold on. Oh, sorry. So under that, we have a motion to move the internship approval to action. Correct, Ms. Knight?
Yes, both that Mr. Rose presented, yes, sir.
Well, it would be both because one of them, the CTE portion composite of nursing fundamentals and the construction trades falls under the executive decree or the decree to give him emergency authority.
Okay.
So the only thing we're doing is approving the internship portion of it, because that falls outside, correct, Mr. Johnson? So you're just wanting to move the approval of the internship and the associated paperwork to action.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Do I have a second?
I say.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Tedder, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes, ma'am.
I have one quick question about the carpentry CT classes, because I'm very familiar with the nursing fundamentals, but what grade level are the carpentry students that we're talking about?
Carpentry level grade students.
They could be 10th through 12th.
So then you have a potential transportation aspect trying to get them in and out.
Possible.
And we will work with that individually and possibly with our vans or if we need it or whether or not they can drive, but we will work through each individual case individually.
As far as the social distancing guidelines? Yes, we would have a reduced number. We would operate on an A-day, B-day. We would have more flexibility with the nursing fundamentals because of the small size of those classes, but with the carpentry, we will absolutely follow every social distancing guideline.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, safety plan?
Good morning, Board. I have just a brief update. The Safety Committee met last Tuesday, the 25th of August, and we did discuss, the steps that we've taken to expedite the return of students. I'd like to also say a big thank you to Mr. Goins and his staff for his ongoing efforts to get supplies and secure materials that we need. We continue to work with our vendors, both current and a couple of new vendors that we have secured to find and secure those materials. We have received a portion of our sprayers. We've received 9 from our original order, and we actually have secured 6 from a secondary vendor. So we have 15 sprayers on site right now that we are working with and preparing to put into action. We will have a plan by the end of this week of how those will be used. Mr. Goins and his staff are working. We sent out an email late last week, and we now have identified who is going to be doing the actual disinfecting and spraying, and we're working through to create a plan to put these 15 sprayers in use up until the remaining 10 to 12 sprayers come in. So we've got a plan for the short term and a long-term plan as well. We continue to gather other supplies such as gloves and gowns. I will tell you that there has not been any change in the delivery date for our hand sanitizing stations. That's still mid to late September. However, we do have a plan to address that. We're going to be using bottled sanitizer until those stations, both freestanding and wall-mounted, arrive. So we're confident that we can put that in place. And just so you know, we continue to work to bring our students back to school as soon as possible when safe to do so. Mr. Goins, you have anything else to add?
Yes, board members, what you have in your packet, we just, I put that in there just to...
Ricky, can you speak up, because I know if I'm having trouble with Ms. Tedder and everybody else.
In your packet, we had here like Plan A, Plan B, to show you what the square footage was. And I do apologize, that information is incorrect because I forgot to add Poplar Springs. I was looking over this last night, and so Poplar Springs is not in there. What we plan to do is once we receive all our sprayers, is allocate, each school will get at least 1 sprayer, and we'll allocate the remaining sprayers based on square footage.
Okay. Thank you, Ricky. Any questions, Ms. Knight?
Are there further discussions or information to share?
No, ma'am. Just want to give a brief update from the Safety Committee, unless Dr. Rice has anything else he would like to add.
Not at this time. I think you did a great job.
This does potentially help move us forward with a lesser than a 9-week reopen.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was clear.
We are working on plans right now to be able to say to Dr. Rice, we're comfortable with training, with supplies and materials to bring students back earlier than the 15th, but he has to have definitive answers. So we're working, we hope by the end of this week that we will have plans in place that will allow us to move forward earlier than October the 15th. Ms. Tedder, did you have a question, or was it a statement? I couldn't make out what you were saying. I apologize.
Ms. Tedder, did you have a specific question, or was it just something that you couldn't hear Dr. Taylor say?
Have we lost Ms. Tedder?
Ms. Tedder, was there a specific thing, a question you had, or was there something you couldn't hear Dr. Taylor say?
Okay, what I was saying, Ms. Tedder, is, can you hear me now? Okay. I also referenced that we continue to work to get in gloves and gowns. I also gave an update. We have not received a different delivery date for our hand sanitizing stations, but we have an alternative plan to use bottled hand sanitizer until those arrive. What I did say, the final statement I made is that we continue to work to bring our students back as soon as possible when safe to do so. Ms. Knight asked the question, does this mean that there's a potential, and I'm summarizing, that we could come back earlier than October the 15th or 14th? And my statement was, we hope to be able to say to Dr. Rice that as soon as we have alternative plans in place that we're working on, that we can give him that information, and then he can share with you as a board a recommendation to bring students back as soon as we can.
Any further questions, Ms. Tedder?
Ms. Tedder, my remarks were based on the last board meeting. At the last board meeting, I think it was made very clear to us to make sure that we were working on all potential options to get our students back safely. So that's what we're working on right now. As in regard to your last question, I'll let Dr. Rice speak to that.
And the answer to that is we will take, again, as we've been doing the whole time, when we have that training plan in place, we will look at the current numbers, discuss it with the health department, have those conversations internally, and at that point, when we feel like we can bring students back safely, we will. And yes, Plan C is going very well. That's the only one we've tried right now. There were people nervous going into Plan C until we did it, and we're going to have people nervous about Plan B until we do it. If Plan B does not work, we can transition out of it. But just like there's people that have expressed that they want to stay in Plan C, there's still been plenty of people who have expressed that they're wanting students back in the building in Plan B as well. And so, again, there's not an answer that's going to make everyone happy, but when in consultation with the health department, current numbers, and our training plans, when we're comfortable that we can bring people back safely, that's what we're looking to do. Whether that's October 15th or September 14th, again, we want to bring our students back into the building as soon as safe as possible.
That's all that I have, unless there are any other questions.
Okay. Any further questions from Ms. Messick or Ms. Knight? Okay. Okay, it's Ms. Messick trying to talk. Katie, Ms. Messick trying to talk right now.
I just wanted to know what kind of plan you had in place to go and who will be doing this training, the custodians or whoever will be in charge of the sprayers, and actually, in the building, who would be the on-site manager to see that people are actually cleaning, as they're supposed to.
As far as the spraying goes, Mr. Goins and his staff will work with our custodial staff to make sure they're trained appropriately how to use, when to use, where to use, how to use the disinfecting equipment. We will be using a combination of primarily custodians, but also some maintenance staff members will actually be doing the spraying. For example, some of our schools have more than one custodian, and a custodian will be the primary person spraying or disinfecting in that building. However, some of our smaller elementary schools who only have one custodian, they have said, I don't have time, I'm not interested, etc. That's where maintenance staff will step in and they will fill that gap. So we're going to be using a combination of custodians and maintenance staff to do the spraying in the evenings.
When all the students have left.
Yes, ma'am. This will be done after everyone has vacated the building each evening. No, ma'am. Right now, what we're hoping to do, once we get all of our equipment in place, we will be disinfecting 2 evenings a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. In the interim, while we only have 15, we may, and before students come back, we may cut back the amount of time or the locations. We're working through that schedule right now. We're working through the logistics of how many sprayers we can put in place, the square footage, how quick it can be done, or how long it will take. We're working through those logistics right now, and we hope to have a plan by the end of the week that we can share more details with you. But we have multiple plans. We have a plan for just 15 sprayers, and we have a plan for when we get all of them in place. We're trying to cover all of our bases.
So could you just walk me through, if you have a sprayer and you're in a building, what is that person's spray?
What will happen is each backpack sprayer will have a product, the EcoSafe EnviroCleanse product that we've talked about, will be placed in the sprayer. It's a battery-operated sprayer. The product itself is mainly ionized water, which helps with the electrostatic process, and it has some cleaning chemicals in it as well, okay? They will go into all of our classrooms, and basically you walk to the corner and you mash a button and you basically mist or fog your way out of, yes ma'am, out of the room. And we have timed, we think it will take less than 2 minutes in most every classroom. And we're even talking about trying to figure out how much time it takes to open doors so we can maximize the amount of time that we are there and the cleaning process. It's literally go in, you mist the room, and you walk out. And the next morning when someone comes back into that classroom, they'll never know we've been there. It doesn't leave a film, it doesn't leave a smell, and according to all the documentation that we have, it is used for disinfecting hard surfaces, primarily for norovirus type situations like we're dealing with now. So we're confident that it will do what we are wanting it to do. It's just a matter of getting the plan finalized and getting the sprayers in the buildings and working.
Are you going to do the common areas too?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
So it's kind of like a mist that you're
yes,
doing
ma'am.
in the room.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you know when you say sprayer, a lot of people get in their mind that you're spraying the car.
No, that's why I've affectionately used the term fogging. That's become a term a lot of people are using right now. Literally, we've sprayed several offices in this building, and you spray it, it's a fine mist or a fog, it settles, and within a couple of hours, you never know. There's no residue, there's no film, there's no damp, wet spots, you can't even smell it. You don't even know it's been there. Yes, ma'am. And it cleans the ionization in that product, and the electrostatic properties of the machine causes it to cling to all the hard surfaces.
Okay, thank you. That helps me visualize it.
You're welcome.
Ms. Messick, if I can add to that, at the maintenance department, we actually sprayed our break room where guys eat lunch at and everything. We sprayed it one morning at 8 o'clock, and I actually sprayed it twice heavier than we would a classroom. We had people come in at 11 o'clock, couldn't smell anything, 3 hours later. So the contact time on this is 10 minutes. So if we fog at night, people come back in the next morning, it's done what it's supposed to do in 10 minutes. You shouldn't smell anything.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I could hear you. I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, use the maintenance group as guinea pigs.
Kind of.
Tell Richie we love him, okay? Okay, all right. Moving on then, enrollment update. Ms. Sliger or Dr. Rice, you want to fill in? I think Ms. Sliger's online, but.
Ms. Sliger, would you like to give that, or would you like for me to? All right.
Our total enrollment, and this is as of Friday, August 28th, we had 5,518, and that's kindergarten up. We have 102 pre-K. That gives us a total of 5,620. And our new students reporting to us from different areas, we have a total of 250. 189 of those came from out of county or out of state.
So what were you had sent me, I'm trying to find the email, what were the numbers for this time or for close of school last year?
Our 9th-month PMR, which was reported in June, we had total students, and this would include pre-K, we had 5,762. So that's roughly about 120, about 125
Okay.
difference in the amount.
So we're down 120 or 142 if we're at 5620 to 5762. Correct?
Yes, 5620 compared to 5762.
Okay.
So we're down
142. But we have picked up some homeschool and some virtual online. Do we have any idea where the decline in numbers, have we seen transfers out of the district to other districts or?
I've spoken to several of the schools trying to get a feel for where they're seeing students go, and it's a mix. I'm hearing homeschool, charter, and even moving out of state and out of county.
Okay.
Mr. Rogers, that is correct. All of those come through through my office as well, and I can tell you we have lost quite a few students to the homeschool area right now. We have had a few students leave to go to Millennium because they started with students face-to-face sooner rather than later. And we have had some students that either have moved. I can speak to 3 situations that were considered homeless last year that have moved out of state. But the vast majority of them right now are going more of the homeschool route at this time.
Okay.
And hopefully we can get some of those back once we get face-to-face, we're hoping.
And I can speak to that sort of as well. I've spoken to several parents who have said that they have taken their kids to private schools where they're not required to wear masks, where they can go 5 days a week, and that the extension of our to go Plan C longer has made them change their mind and leave us because they wanted at least 2 days a week of face-to-face instruction. Several of them did talk to me, and we had long, in-depth conversations where they have signed a 9-week agreement with private schools by a quarter so that they could come back if we're in school at that time. They say they love us, but their children need face-to-face instruction. They're worried about 7 hours of screen time a day, 5 days a week. They need the daycare aspect of it. They needed to work. And then again, some of them were the mask. We had one parent that has 2 children in our district that said that she didn't want their temperature taken every day. Again, some of these are uncontrollable to us that we have no control over, but also, again, that's why we're trying to get back in school to give some sense of normalcy, because we know that's what some of the parents are reaching out for that are leaving us, is that face-to-face instruction, and so that they can be around their peers.
Okay.
If you don't mind, that's what I noticed in my community was, parents needing to work in Winston, not having childcare, like 8 to 5 or whatever, full-time childcare options if you don't have family. And then what Dr. Rice said, so many were just going the private school route with the face-to-face, having that stability,
Ms. Bassick?
I did want to ask Dr. Rice this question. The parents that signed that waiver, were you able to get the waiver for the North Carolina High School Athletic Association if they wanted to play sports?
If they are virtual students with us, they can play sports, yes ma'am.
No, but if they left and went to the private school, like you said, and you had given them the option to come back.
No, if they leave and enroll in another school, they're not allowed to play. But if they're not a member school, if it's a school that doesn't have a membership in the High School Athletic Association, they would be eligible when they come back. But if for some reason they go to a private school that is a member institution, they would have to sit out.
But if they weren't a member of.
Correct. If they're, and I hate to call a name, but if private school A does their own private school leagues and they're not a member of the association, they would not have to sit out upon return. But you only have to sit out if you go to another member school.
And the waiver that was signed was between them and the private school, not between us.
Oh.
We didn't say, we'll give you a waiver that you can come back. We just said, come on back when you're ready.
Well, I kind of
That is correct. And we can work with homeschool students. That is one area, homeschool students, unless they participate on a homeschool team or something of that nature, if they take a minimum number of classes with us, we can potentially work with them in regard to athletics.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tedder, you have anything else? Okay, thank you, Ms. Tedder. At this time, I will go ahead and weigh in. I think failing to try is just trying to fail. We don't know what Plan B will offer. We do know there's no vaccine on the horizon that's going to happen in the next 5 weeks before we get to the 9-week mark. So whatever we see now, we're going to see this entire first semester, probably the entire 2020-2021 school year. So unless we are totally accepting the fact we are online academy only, we're really not doing we're really doing a disservice. The fact that we have to have certain students in, as we've learned from Mr. Rose, we know we've got to bring some in just to provide education. And I can't see where saying, okay, well, it's okay if you're a nursing student, we'll let you back in, but if you're, as I said, a chemistry student, well, you still just have to do your labs online, because the home chemistry set is not comparable to a chemistry lab at a West Stokes, North Stokes, South Stokes. The same thing with biology. We can't dissect anything at home with the authority that we do online. There's just certain things that our students need their instructors in front of them as much as they can. If not, we're an online academy and we might as well be North Carolina Virtual Public Schools, my opinion. So at this point, I don't think we're being inconsistent. The only adaptation we made to the original plan was we put it on hold until we made sure we got everything we needed to open safely. If we don't open with the intent of trying to do it safely, then we're doing the disservice. But keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. We're just kicking an educational can down the road without giving anybody a shot to see what plan B. Now, we may go to plan B and 3 weeks later we have to go back to C. But we don't know that until we try plan B. We've got to at least make an effort, or else we just fail. So with that being said, well, I'll turn it back over and we'll move on to next item on the agenda, which would be the action agenda, which we have one item on the action agenda, internship waiver form for for EDS Rhodes.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement presented by Mr. Rose for the internship.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Ms. Messick has seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Tedder, how do you vote on that one? Yeah, did you hear it? We have a motion and a second for the internship agreement form presented by Mr. Rhodes. We have two affirmatives. How do you vote? Okay. All right, that's it for action then. Well, you had your turn to speak and we gave everybody the allotted amount of time and then we moved on to action. I agree, you've stated your point, so as we have spoken many times, we will agree to disagree and move on. So, make it brief, Ms. Tedder, please. I think that's a general statement from the whole board. We appreciate private enterprise. He didn't do this as a county commissioner. He saw a need, took it upon himself through entrepreneurship to do so. So, all right, with that being said, information and announcements. Dr. Taylor.
We have just a few things to share with you, board members. Please note your next board meeting is scheduled for September the 21st at 6 p.m. here at the central office. A couple of things that we would like to bring to your attention. The Principal of the Year announcement has been scheduled for September the 8th at 3 p.m. We've not determined a location as of yet. We're working on that. Also, September the 10th is your North Carolina School Board Association Fall District Meeting. It appears as if that will be virtual now. So please let Pam know if you would like to be registered for that event. Yes, and the next thing, the retiree reception unfortunately has been canceled due to COVID-19 and the restrictions on gatherings. So that has been canceled. And then looking forward, November the 5th through the 7th is the North Carolina School Board's annual conference. And right now, they are tentatively still having it in Greensboro, but they are also looking at it being virtual. So as soon as Pam has more information on that, she will share that with you. Any questions about the information and or announcements?
I do understand why we would cancel the retiree reception, but at some time, if the governor does open up the state, could we at least look at a possibility of doing something?
Yes, ma'am.
Even if it's later in the year. But I do realize we have to wait on directions from him to open the state.
And we can certainly look at that, but please know we have already provided our gifts to the retirees and the recognition and cards. So we have tried to do what we can do at this point, but we can certainly look at that in the future depending on where we are at the time.
Well, I never heard that you had given the gifts already.
Ms. Jessup told me that this morning that all those had been provided already.
So you're just telling us now. We appreciate it.
I just found out this morning.
Okay. Well,
Did Ms. Jessup just take it? Ms. Jessup just take it upon herself to do so then?
Again, I'm telling you what I know. She told me this morning she provided those gifts.
Okay. All right. Crowdfunding. Any other information announcements you want to
No,
cover?
sir, unless you have any questions for me.
Okay. All right. Then no further questions. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, under General Statute 143, 318.11, subsection A1, A3, and A6, for discussions with the board's attorney to reserve the attorney-client privilege to discuss matters required by state and federal law to be discussed in confidence, and to consider the qualifications and performance of a prospective or current employee of the Board of Education.
Do I have such a motion to go into closed?
I make a motion to go into closed.
Thank you, Ms. Messick. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Tedder, how do you vote? All right, we're officially closed. Thank you all.
All right, Ricky, you're going back to your little guinea pigs now.
Well, somebody had to be first.
He's saying that I have vision of opportunity.
You know, somebody had to be first. I did have some people that were smelling, were spraying. Is that uncomfortable? I'm like, no, it kind of smells like a chlorine smell, but it's not over.
He's helping for leather when he's coming back.
I'll tell you one of the teachers I talked to was really doing well. She don't have to. She said, you know, if I can get them back half-time, at least I can forge the relationships where they work the other 2 days. She's starting to see kids cut off the mic, cut off the camera, but they're in attendance. And then they clap in, and they're still there when you ask them to hang up.
mic to mic. And I'm like, look, what's different? What's gonna be different?
Sorry, I don't know what's going on, so we
Whatever
tried
we-
it
yeah.
last week and it worked perfectly.
We need to upgrade, get the Plantronics speakerphones or whatever. But he was